On the sphere, you can definitely see where the light source is coming from on the left. There's a strong highlight over there and then a cast shadow on the right. But did you know that there are different parts of a sphere shadow that you can actually label like a diagram? Here in this illustration, you can see that there's a light source shining in from the top left, and it's hitting on the top left of the sphere, creating a highlight. As you get away from that light source, it creates the middle tones, and then it gets darker and darker until you can see the core of the shadow. The core of the shadow is actually the dark crescent shape on the right-hand side. After the core of the shadow, it does something that I think is kind of unexpected. The shadow actually gets a little bit lighter again, and that happens because light is reflecting off of the table back onto the object. So you can see it's labeled there, reflected light. And then the last part is the cast shadow. So a cast shadow is a shadow that's being thrown from the object onto another surface. So you imagine if you're going fishing and you're casting your line, you're actually throwing your fishing line into the water. So a cast shadow is being thrown from the object onto the table. And again, I just want to remind you that the cast shadow underneath the sphere is actually darker than the edge of the sphere where the reflected light is. So now let's talk about how to actually do the shading. So you have your circle drawn, you have a table line behind it, and you have a little light bulb in the upper corner indicating where the light's coming from. So you're just going to start shading on the opposite side of the light bulb, and you want to start shading around the curved form. So you can see how the shading itself is also rounded to help show the form of the sphere. So here I'm speeding it up and I'm just continuing to shade in, and I'm going in with light pencil strokes. I'm holding the pencil overhanded, um, layering and blending colors on top of each other. And I want to start creating some darker values now. So I'm going to start with some of the B pencils and the ebony pencils, getting that core of the shadow in there, that darkest part of the shadow. So there's the ebony pencil. Here's some more B pencils, working a little bit lighter. And then switching over to create some of the highlights, we're going to switch over to some of the H pencils. The H pencils are a harder pencil, and they will kind of push around those darker, softer pencils, and it will visually smooth them out if you use them on their side and don't press too hard so you create streaks. So now, cleaning up the eraser, drawing in a very light edge to show the cast shadow. Remember that cast shadow? Now look at how dark that is next to the reflected light and blending that to the outside. Again, layering pencil strokes, hiding them, not having individual pencil strokes showing, just like we practiced on our value scales. And then last, to go in and separate the table from the background. So you would want to choose one, and it could be either one, the table or the background, and create a light shade of gray. So for me, I'm going to flip my sketchbook upside down so my hand is not sitting on top of the sphere. And I find it easier to kind of like work around that space if it's closer to me and I can see it all and my hand isn't covering it. So I'm just using a beveled edge of an H pencil and going in horizontally. And I'm being really careful to try to keep these lines really straight, really horizontal, so visually they also contrast the roundness of the sphere. This way it'll really look like a flat wall behind a round object. Ta-da! All right, and then last, everybody's favorite, blending. So no more finger smudging. Now we are using a tortillon stump or a paper stump to actually blend in those backgrounds. Now I'm blending in the cast shadow, and I'm pulling some of the graphite from that cast shadow and I'm putting it into the background so I can just really slowly build that up and make it darker, and I can stop at any point in time. And now you can see how the sphere itself looks more textured versus the background. It wouldn't necessarily matter which one you blended, but when you have the texture against the smooth background, it really does have a nice effect of just, again, looking different. So here I am blending in the sphere, and I actually end up wishing that I hadn't done that. You can see I'm running into problems. It's getting too dark. I have to clean off the tortillon stump. I'm gonna have to go in and erase that. And then I'll continue using the tortillon stump to try to blend and create some really soft smudgy values there. But after I was done with this, I looked back and I really liked it just fine without the blending stump.